Now that Michael Flynn has stepped down and resigned as National Security Advisor for the Trump administration, the Kremlin has responded. Now, interestingly enough, there were a few elected officials in Russia who previously responded in a negative way. They thought that this was anti-Russian propaganda, but then they kind of took it back a little bit. They took it back. Now, let me give you an interesting quote from an individual from the Center for Political Technologies. This is actually an organization that's in Moscow. And he says, this infatuation with Trump in Russia is over, and Flynn, as a person who has contributed to this infatuation, stopped being perceived as a figure who can have a real impact on the U.S. foreign policy. Now listen to this. Tillerson is set to hold his first meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov later this week. Tillerson, who has sealed multiple deals in Russia and was even decorated with the Russian Order of Friendship Award, is widely described as a tough negotiator. So they're thinking, well, at first they were a little annoyed, and then now it's like, we got Tillerson though.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a matter of at first. So let me explain. There's two big parts of that story that Annie just outlined for you guys. The first part is the Russian reaction. So in the beginning, some government officials go out there and go, oh, this is an outrage, but they're pulled back by Moscow.
Yes.
And then later come back out, like the quote that Anna read, go, oh, no big deal, niet, no problem, right? And it was Flynn, the Flynn was the problem. But boy, we are really worried about how the Americans are going to deal with us and negotiate with us from now on. Okay, so you get a clear sense that there was an order sent, hey, be cool, this is perfect. We wanted somebody as a scapegoat anyway. Now we're going to do the deal we always wanted. Now, what's the deal they always wanted? It's in plain sight. It's not complicated. It's not hard to figure out. As soon as I tell you, 98% of you will agree with me, even if you're a right-winger and even if you don't admit it. Exxon-Mobil had a $500 billion deal. That is $500 billion with Russia for an oil deal in Russia. When Obama did the sanctions for Russia taking Crimea and crossing the border with Ukraine, they lost that $500 billion deal. The Russians would have made an unbelievable amount of money on it, and so would Exxon-Mobil and a lot of other folks here in the U.S. Our new Secretary of State is the former CEO of Exxon-Mobil who made that deal. The guy who runs that company for Russia, the largest oil company in Russia that would have benefited from the other half, said that the main thing he was bothered by in the sanctions is that he won't get to ride motorcycles with his friend Rex Tillerson on American highways anymore. Okay, Rex Tillerson gets a medal from Putin. Flynn is small potatoes.
Yes.
He's the scapegoat. Tillerson is the main guy. What an insane person to put as the Secretary of State. This guy was no experience, no nothing. This is, you see, and you were thinking, it's actually so brazen, so obvious that you, like, I paused at first, like, wait, that's so obvious that am I missing something? Then I realized, no, that's how Trump is. He doesn't care. Everything he does is brazen. He did the national security briefings on the North Korea issue in the middle of all of his guests.
Yep.
Even though it is an unbelievable violation of national security, and right afterwards he bragged, well, these people paid a lot of money to me. Oh my God, right? That's who Trump is.
Do you guys remember, of course you remember because it was all anyone ever talked about during the election, how Hillary Clinton's private email server was a problem because there were classified emails and it was irresponsible. You know, you put national security at risk when you're using a private email server like that. What if it's not secure? What if someone can hack into it? That was legitimate concern, right? Which the Trump, when he was running, honestly blew out of proportion. And now he's sitting in his resort, which he's constantly doing commercials for, and talking about national security matters out in the open. I mean, it's insane.
And it's also insane that they have, you're talking about compromising national security. Flynn was calling the Russian ambassador on the day that we imposed sanctions on them for meddling in the elections, going, don't sweat it. Okay, it's almost as if he works for the guy. Yeah. But Flynn's the messenger. He was a gopher. The real deal is Tillerson.
Exactly.
And by the way, now there are rumors out there that it goes beyond Tillerson to Trump. Now, what that entails, not enough information on that, okay? But Tillerson clearly had a lot to gain, but why does Trump care about what Tillerson has to gain? and what Exxon-Mobil had to gain and what Russia had to gain unless he had something to gain.
Well,
so we don't know yet, so let's see how that goes. But Tillerson is obvious.
Yeah, it would be helpful if we could see Donald Trump's tax returns.
Huh.
It would.
Gee, I wonder why he's not showing them.
I mean, wouldn't his voters and supporters want the kind of transparency that they felt they weren't getting from previous administrations? You know, wouldn't they want someone who's an anti-establishment president who does things differently and shows them all of the truth and what's happening behind the scenes?
So that you could drain the swamp.
Just so you can drain the swamp.
Yeah, so you don't...
They're concerned, right, about those things, except they're not.
And I just do one little last thing here that I'm pissed at the AP for, saying, and Rex Tillerson, who's known as a tough negotiator. What do you mean? He negotiated the $500 billion deal with Russia. You think he's going to be tough on them now? No, he's going to... Here, watch. I'll predict it for you ahead of time. They're going to approve that deal at some point in the Trump administration. Of course they are, and you know it. I don't care how right-wing you are. You know they're going to approve that deal, and then you'll make some excuse for them. That was the whole point of Tillerson being Secretary of State.
Exactly. And I'll leave you with a quote from our friend Alexei, who I read from earlier. He said, the nomination of Tillerson, former chief executive at Exxon-Mobil, showed the Russians that he, not Flynn, would be doing the negotiating.
In other words, who cares about Flynn? We got our best friend, the guy we gave a medal to, as a great gift from Donald Trump to us to do the negotiating with us.
Yes.
When in fact, both of us are going to get stinking rich off this deal. Support independent media and get the whole Young Turks 2-hour show and other network shows all ad-free. TYTnetwork.com/join. Come join us today.